All right. So knowing that our control systems or our robotic systems are dynamic in nature, meaning a lot of unexpected things can happen. Okay. There could be changes in the environment, in the user's instructions, or in the things like obstacles present within the robot's path or workspace. So with that, the system can change from one configuration to another. And the problem, if the system is not configured to be dynamic enough, okay, there could be a time when vibration um, successfully creeps in or makes significant effects. Okay, so vibration is basically a mechanical phenomenon precisely used to describe mechanical oscillation. So basically, oscillation, back and forth, or repeated um, motion that is normally unwanted. Right? Although there are some applications where we want vibration to be applied, but in most cases, especially in robotic systems, vibration could be I think applied only in haptics or giving the system the robot a sense of feeling to its actions. So like when it hits something, the robot will vibrate. Okay. What else? Vibration, some manipulation functions could be in the form of vibrations. For example, we want the robot to move around, move to this position, or pick this object and cause some vibration in it. So that could be another option or use of vibrations. But in most cases, vibrations are unwanted because uh, this can cause what we call mechanical resonance. If the vibration hits or matches with the natural frequency of our robotics or our robot's physical structure, okay? So remember, each material, each um, object has its natural frequency. Okay? Everything, all solids have their respective natural frequency. And once the vibration matches with that, or the frequency of the vibration matches with that natural frequency, then mechanical resonance will occur. Okay? So this is the tendency of a mechanical system to respond at a greater amplitude when the frequency of its oscillations matches the system's natural frequency. So meaning it responds the most. So for example, okay, if this is the system, this is a link in our robotic system, and it has this certain natural frequency that unfortunately the vibration has able to match, then the response will be great. It will be maximum. Okay, and actually, so if the response is maximum and it's not allowed to move around, then ideally it will break apart. Okay, so it will collapse or break apart. Um, and that's something we don't want with our system. Okay, so vibration is nice, but just make sure it doesn't match with the natural frequency of our um components in the physical structure of our robot. Okay, so good news is we can do something to reduce it, restrict it, or prevent it through the process called damping. Okay? Damping, just like this one, if we have the okay, undamped, the color blue is the normal. This is the vibration the system experiences. Okay? And if we perform some damping, then we can minimize the vibration. We can have a steady response only. Okay, for example, if you want the robot to position in this specific um, coordinate, okay, and there's vibration going on, then it can oscillate between different um, coordinates. Okay, it cannot maintain its position, its exact position because of the vibration. Okay, that's why we want to stop it from vibrating. We want to dampen the vibration. Okay, but we cannot do that. Of course, the best thing to do is to locate, to identify the cause of vibration, and if we can get rid of it, then that's nice. But if the vibration is from other actuators that are vital to the operations to the of the system, then we cannot get rid of that vibration. It's innate. It's inevitable. Okay? So what we can do is dampen that vibration. Okay? At least minimize the effect of it. Right? So to dampen the vibration, one option is to have an underdamped circuit. Okay, so underdamped is something that still we have vibration, but it lessens as time goes on. Okay, that's underdamped. But if we have critically damped or a strong damp, okay, so when the object at the very start of the vibration, the damping system will automatically damp it down. Okay, but it takes some time. Okay, so it will start to have it stable. As you can see, the pink one, right? So we no longer have oscillations, back and forth changes in our response. Okay, but if we improve it further, we can have a critically damped system, uh, like this one. Okay, it has a faster damping effect. Okay, so it takes less time to make our system stable again, right? And we have what we call the mass spring damper model that we use to represent a complex mechanical system designed to reduce the dynamic response of the structure. So we usually model our system's mechanical structure or physical structure as a mass spring damper model. Okay, so any physical structure of a robot is represented as a mass, a spring, and a damper. Okay, and most robots have rotational mechanism, but there are some in the more advanced ones, especially in the industrial ones, have the translational. Okay, so either way, we have a corresponding mass spring damper model. Okay, for the translational, we have the mass, symbol for the mass here, and the corresponding um, mathematical model in terms of force. Okay, for the translational. Okay, but for the rotational, our mathematical model is in terms of torque. Okay, so um, as you can see, we have the mass here as basically a multiplier of the second position or second order the derivative of our position. Okay, x is the position, right? And same thing in the rotational aspect, second order of the angular position or displacement. Okay, while the spring is basically the constant one. Okay, and the dashpot or the damper is the first order one, first order component. Okay, so we um have this thing. We can model our mechanical structure of a robot as either a translational or a rotational system. So translational, basically, we have the force position controller to, of course, perform the necessary damping. Um, in addition to its original or the default um, or the main function, right? So here's an example. We can have in this example we have the applied force, the force due to our mass, or in other words, the weight, the force due to our damper, and the force due to our spring. Okay, so basically whatever our applied force here, that is being balanced with the sum of these three, the mass, spring, and damper components. Okay, and to have our mathematical model, we express them in terms of force, their equivalent force equations here. So for the mass component, we have the first derivative of the velocity. For the damper component, we have the first derivative of the position. And remember, the velocity is the first derivative also of the position, meaning this is somewhat like the second derivative of the position. Okay, so now we have a differential equation that when we arrange, we have the mathematical model for the applied force. Okay, in the same way, we have the rotational system that is usually managed by our torque control. Um, we express our um, force components in terms of torque, okay, or in terms of their corresponding torque. So since it involves rotational motion. So we have the um okay, as you can see, we have our rotation could either be clockwise or counterclockwise. So basically our applied torque is something being opposed by the torque due to our mass, the torque due to our damper, rotational damper or dashpot, and the torque due to our spring. Okay, and as you can see, the position, they have their corresponding um, what do we call this? The corresponding mathematical equations that we apply here, substitute here, and then eventually, just like in the first one, we have the corresponding mathematical model as well. Okay, so don't worry in the using tools like MATLAB and Python programming, you don't have to perform these things manually. You don't have to come up um with your entire process. Basically, you just input your mass, spring, and damper coefficients, and then the program will come up with the corresponding mathematical model. Okay, we just need the coefficients, the mass, the spring, and the damper and the spring coefficients, and then we have our model. Okay, so that's I think this is the most math heavy part of our module. Okay, so again, with the help of programming, we no longer have to deal with all the math in between. Okay, we just provide the input and then whatever the output, that's it, right? Now, in connection to that, we have the torsional vibration. So sometimes in different types of our robotic systems, there are joints that are being torn apart by different, I mean, there are links that are being torn apart by different joints. So for example, if this joint um, undergoes some sort of unregulated or unwanted vibration, then it can cause a detrimental effect on the link that connects it to the other joint. Okay, so meaning this can cause mechanical resonance if left untreated. Okay, we have the term torsional vibration or the type of vibration that is angular in nature or rotational. Often a shaft along its axis of rotation. That is often a concern in transmission power transmission systems using rotating shafts or couplings where it can cause failures if not controlled. So, although this is common in power transmission systems, in robotic systems, this is this one happens when the the mechanical structure or mechanical components that hold the different joints are not placed firmly or accurately. Okay? So a second effect of torsional vibration applies to passenger cars. So, okay, especially of course we have the self-driving cars. Um, that's another application. Okay. And apart from that, we have the issue of torsion. Okay. So this is a kind of stress that we don't want our mechanical components of our robots to undergo. Okay. Because torsion is the twisting of a rod or beam or a link as a result of an applied torque. So as the motors rotate or the rotational joints rotate, then if the links are not in sync with them, then they could um, be torsion. So for example, if these are two motors joined together by this link, if one moves and the other does not, or if the motion of these two joints are different, then they could provide a torsion effect on the link that connects the two of them. Okay, so torsion basically we can determine that when we have an angle of twist. Okay, based on the applied um, load. Okay, and we usually um, refer to the shear stress and the ratio of the shear stress and the shear strain, and that's what we call the modulus of rigidity. That's why when we choose the material for our links and other mechanical components of our robot's physical structure, we take a look at their modulus of rigidity. Okay? Because we have to know whether they can stand torsion enough or not. All right. So, okay, by the way, this the T is our tau for the torque, L is for the length of the beam, G is the modulus rigidity, and the J as the torsional constant that depends on the shape of our beam or in our case the link, right? So material matters and the way we configure our mechanical system matters. Okay. And with that, it's important to have basic understanding on materials engineering or material science, which is an interdisciplinary field involving the properties of materials or the matter and its applications to various areas of science, including robotics. So it is the study of material properties that are determined by a material's composition and structures. How did we come up with our material and how did we put together or shape our materials? So they matter on the performance, especially when subjected to tension or to stresses. Okay. So commonly, at its most basic essence, materials could either be metals, ceramics, or polymers. But of course, they are being engineered to come up with to get the best of both worlds. Like the best of metals and ceramics, we can have metal ceramic composites, or the best of both worlds of metals and polymers, we can have meta polymer composites. And also we have ceramic polymer composites. So um, now, the point here is we choose the materials that will have enough elasticity to withstand the stress they are being subjected to. So when our robots are moving or performing some tasks, the mechanical components, of their physical structure are constantly being subjected to stress. So they must be strong enough to withstand such stresses. Okay? So when a material undergoes stress, it actually it is just normal that it experiences what we call strain or deformation. Okay? But some materials are elastic in nature. So although they deform, once the stress is gone, they can go back to their original form. Okay? So there's no more deformation, or meaning that deformation can be reversible. Okay? So just remove the stress and then the deformation will eventually um disappear. Okay? However, when the stress applied to our component is too much, the material could reach the what we call the yield strength, okay, or the point of no return. So from being elastic, the material will now be plastic, wherein the more we apply the stress in the material, the more they are being deformed permanently. Okay? They are no longer elastic, but they are plastic. So they are being deformed permanently. Even though you remove the stress, the damage has become permanent already. Okay? So we can basically derive the strain curve of a material based on its Young's modulus. Okay? So, especially the elastic part. And I think we have the modules of rigidity. So those two specs are among the most important things we check when choosing material for our mechanical structure or mechanical components of our physical structure of our robot. Okay? So remember, we have the mechanics of deformable bodies, also known as the mechanics of materials, as the study of the relationship between the external loads applied to a body and the stress and strain caused by the internal loads within the body. So in robotic systems, um, the stress could be in the form of compression. Compression, two forces meet acting in opposite direction towards a certain component of our body. Okay? If it's opposite away, then we have tension, meaning compression is just pushing together. Tension is pulling apart. Okay? Sometimes when we have two joints connected by a link, if the joints are moving in opposite direction, then the link could experience shear stress. Okay? So imagine this one goes this way and this one goes this way, opposite. So because of the continuous movement, then the that component could eventually experience shear stress and break apart. Okay? So if it is being cut in between, then that's shear stress. But if it is gradually being rotated, then that's torsion. Okay? Or sometimes if there's a third component, like we fasten our we fasten our link here, right here and here on both ends, and then there's another force in between, somewhere in the middle of the link, then there could be a bending. Okay, so these are some of the most common mechanical stresses that our robotic system might undergo, and we usually um, choose the right type of materials and then compute the factor of safety. So we choose based on the factor of safety, and other than the mechanical stress, we take a look at the what we call the thermal stress, which occurs when there is a change in temperature to material that can lead to fracture or plastic deformation. So it's not just the mechanical actions that can cause stress to our robot's body. Okay, or physical structure. Sometimes, when our circuits get too hot, or maybe due to friction and constant motion within our mechanical components, those components could eventually heat up and then experience thermal stress. So some of them get deformed as well, depending on how much stress they are being subjected to. Okay, so that's an overview of our bonus topic here, and the point here is we um we also consider these things, okay, knowing the systems are meant to be dynamic. So these concepts of stress and strain are also being um, considered i- and applied in the design of our controllers. Okay, so otherwise we can have something like this, right? So this happens when we have miscalculations, or when we have insufficient considerations, especially regarding the mechanical aspect of our robotic system. But of course, we are not, as electronics engineers, that's not much of our, or there's nothing much we can do. But uh, we just what we can do is just focus on the controllers. How our controllers can help get rid of these things. Okay? And that is best done with the help of feedback systems. Okay? Because they are the backbone of active vibration control, and they ensure the robot can respond dynamically to vibrations. Um, and other types of stress. Okay? Other factors that cause stress to our physical structure. So we can have advanced control strategies like hybrid force position control and torque control for this purpose. Okay, and you can read the details here, right? So that's the main point. We focus on control systems not just to achieve our desired um, results, but at the same time to manage the different disturbances in the environment, or the inputs, or the different factors affecting the performance of our robotic systems. Okay? And especially that is done with the in the form of our hybrid force position control and torque control. Right? So that would be all for this module. See you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.